Hello guys, welcome to my channel. My name is Omar Tall. I'm a general, I'd say, fitness channel. And I'd like to talk to you guys about the big three and what I might recommend instead of the usual big three. So if you are, into the lifting world, maybe even if you're new to the lifting world, you probably would have heard of what's called the big three. Now, the big three are, of course, three movements that people would standardly use to kind of base their training off of and to build mostly strength and mass. And these movements would be squat, bench press, and deadlifts, right? These are all barbell movements, basic barbell movements that you probably include in your training program if you do work out and if you do use weights. But I'd say that these might not be the best when it comes to actually getting specific types of strength and also even building muscle, right? They might not be super accessible, especially since these are all movements that would require weight. My big three that I would recommend to you would be chin-ups or pull-ups, whichever variation you like, squats, and dips. And these can all be weighted, right? So you can do weighted squats, you can do weighted chin-ups, you can do weighted dips, right? Barbell squats, whatever the case may be, anything that you think will help with you being able to add on weights and to progress and to even add strength. And so I'll kind of explain to you why I chose these three movements compared to the previous three that I mentioned before. So I believe that basic calisthenics should be at the base of everybody's training. So basic calisthenic movements would be push-ups, pull-ups, dips, squats, stuff like that. And they're part of my training. I started off with calisthenics, and I think most people should start off with calisthenics. Calisthenics can be very beginner friendly, along with also being a lot more challenging for people that are also advanced, because they can kind of be progressed almost forever, right? You don't have to give up on calisthenics just because you can do 20 push-ups, bodyweight push-ups in one set. There's so much more to it, right? You can do deficit push-ups, you can add weight, whatever the case may be, in order to make these movements more difficult. And also, they are more, I guess you could say, athletic in a way, because you are moving your body through space with these basic calisthenic movements. So it's going to require a lot more muscles to be worked. It's going to require a lot more mobility and flexibility in general. So therefore, you're kind of taking care of all these other things and ticking all these other boxes in order to, get fit and strong. And they're also very accessible. Calisthenic movements, you need very basic and simple equipment. You don't need to get a barbell. You don't need to get a bench press. You don't need to get weight plates in order to do these movements. You don't even need all that stuff to do these movements weighted as well. If you're going to do dips, you might need like some parallel bars. Of course, you might want a pull-up bar. And then with squats, you just have to rely on the ground below your feet. So with chin-ups, I did mention chin-ups specifically. I would say chin-ups more than pull-ups. So you're getting that supinated grip. This grip, you're getting more biceps involved rather than with the regular pronated grip for the pull-ups. Now, you can do whichever one you like. I'd say it probably would be best to switch them up. But I say chin-ups because of that supination you're getting. It's stretching your wrist a little bit. That can help with wrist mobility. And of course, you're getting your biceps in there. And when you are doing chin-ups, your lats are more stretched out. So when you're in that dead hang position with a supinated grip, your lats are going to be stretched out a lot more, and you're going to be working a lot more of your overall back. I believe that even doing this movement weighted is going to be great for back strength and hypertrophy, especially your grip strength. When it comes to many pulling movements, grip strength is a limiting factor. And you could use lifting straps, but some people might not want to use lifting straps. I personally don't use any lifting straps, maybe because I don't lift like super heavy, but my grip hasn't really had to be like a limiting factor in most of my movements, because I continually do body weight pull-ups and chin-ups, and I continually do weighted chin-ups and weighted pull-ups as well. So my grip is never really any type of factor when it comes to deadlifting per se, right? My grip has never given out when I do deadlifts. And when it comes to deadlifts, you're not really getting a lot of back hypertrophy as well. Let's say you want to build a strong back and a big back, right? A big back, maybe not. You can get a big back through eating like McDonald's, but if you want a different type of big back, you might want to do pull-ups as well. So, but with deadlifts, you're gonna kind of get like more of a refrigerator back. You're gonna be very thick and dense, but you're not going to get like that width that usually building your lats would get you. So in that way, that kind of makes pull-ups a lot more versatile. And since again, you're dealing with your body weight, you're moving your body through space, that can be a difficult movement pattern for many people. And because it's a difficult movement pattern, it's going to be a lot more advantageous, right? Not many people can do pull-ups, right? Everybody can do deadlifts because you can pick up however much weight you can off the ground, but not everybody can move their own body weight. And that would be the same case when it comes to dips, right? So I put dips, I personally believe that dips is probably like the most superior pushing movement out there, maybe even over push-ups and definitely over bench press. So when it comes to dips, depending on your own personal mobility and your flexibility, you can get low enough to get your hands almost up to your chest, right? Or even above your nipple, right? And when it comes to doing bench, you have a bar. You have a bar that's coming down, hitting your chest, touching your chest, so you get maybe this much range of motion, right? If you can see that correctly. And then you push it off, right? Now, I'm not saying that bench is like not good for building your chest or not good for building strength. It definitely is. Many athletes have. But when it comes to, let's say, general, I guess like, general performance, right? If you're doing a body weight movement, let's say you're pushing maybe almost most of your body weight when you're doing dips, and then you're adding weight onto yourself, you are generally going to have a lot of strength carry over to bench press as well, right? I don't really bench press, and I'd say like I'm pretty strong at bench press just because I rely heavily on weighted push-ups and I rely super heavily on weighted dips. So squats is probably like the only thing I didn't really change here. I mean, besides not mentioning specifically barbell squats, but when it comes to squats is just such a simple, basic movement that's been done by like many different types of strength athletes for like almost hundreds of years now, at this point. So whether it be, you do squats and you do barbell squats, you do, I don't know, just body weight squats, or you use a weighted vest, whatever the case may be, you can throw on a book bag with all of these movements, right? In order to get them weighted or whatever the case may be, therefore increasing the versatility of these movements and the access of these movements. So you don't always have to do barbell squats. You can just do, I don't know, weighted book bag squats, or you can just do hundreds of bodyweight squats, which I've done before. And they're gonna overall build a lot of leg mass and leg strength as well. I'd say squats in general should be one of the foundational leg movements in any of your leg workouts. And I myself have relied very heavily on using squats as a general leg builder and leg strengthener. So I don't see any reason to not have them in your program, unless like you can't really do that movement because of some genuine like knee problem or genuine mobility problem. But mostly the reason why you can't do squats is because you don't do squats in the first place. So that's why you have problems. And yeah, that's about all I have to say for squats. Very simple, basic exercise. Not much has to be said about them. So all three of these movements can definitely be used for both strength and hypertrophy. And I'd say they're better more so for hypertrophy when it comes to doing, let's say, the standard 3 squat, bench, and dead, right? With dips, you're getting a lot more range of motion in your triceps, right? I can get sore triceps from doing dips, and then of course you're getting a much farther stretch on your shoulder from doing the dips as well, so you can get bigger shoulders. And of course, like I said, with the chin-ups or even just the way to pull-ups, you're going to be getting a lot more back involved. So obviously you're going to get like a wider, even thicker back. And squats, they're the same throughout, to be honest. If you want to be the strongest when it comes to doing the dips, squats, and chin-ups, you might want to kind of adopt a competition style form that street lifters might do in order to get those types of like leverages. But I'd say you should learn a standard way of performing the movement and then get stronger in that way, so that way you'd be less prone to injury, especially if you're a beginner and you're doing these movements. If you're a beginner, like a complete noob to the gym, do all these movements with just your body weight. And if you can't do these movements yet with your body weight, then of course you can work up to them. You can do rows instead of chin-ups or pull-ups. You can do push-ups instead of dips. And of course, squats, you can just do that body weight, or you could do like assisted squats or maybe you're holding on to something. To gain muscle with these movements, it's kind of like a no-brainer. It's like, it's way too easy, actually. It's like too easy to gain muscle on these movements. And it's like, when you gain muscle anyways, you're still gonna get a lot more strength than the average person. So maybe if you don't really care about getting large amounts of strength like how I am personally, I can still become a lot stronger than, let's say, the average person, way stronger actually, without having to focus too much on strength. So when it comes to the big three that I mentioned, the big three of the first standard big three, squat, bench, and deadlifts, these are done mostly in, let's say, in an athletic capacity, mostly by power lifters, right? And then the big three that I mentioned with chin-ups, but they might not do chin-ups, but they do pull-ups, I believe. Pull-ups, dips, and squats, these are done by street lifters, right? So if you compare and contrast the physiques of these two, it's definitely different as to, like, which one, pick one, choose how you want to look like, let's say, depending on which movements you focus on. If you look at like someone like a power lifter, they're going to be a lot bigger. They're going to carry a lot more weight on them, a lot more body fat. And this is because it allows for better leverages when they're doing these movements, and it kind of lets them put on as much weight as possible. Now, of course, there are leaner power lifters, but if they want to be the absolute strongest at their sport, then it's going to be advantageous to put on a lot more weight. Now, compared to the street lifters are a lot more aesthetic per se, because the movements that they do kind of just sculpt their bodies in that way. And then, of course, they're leaner. They have to be leaner because if they have extra body weight on them, extra, unneeded body fat, is going to lead to decreased performance in their movements, right? If you're heavier, you're not going to be able to do weighted pull-ups and weighted dips all that well. Of course, their squats are like probably nothing compared to the squats of a power lifter, but in general, they're still very strong when it comes to these, the squatting movement. In general, me personally, I want to look like someone who's like a street lifter. I don't really want to be built like a refrigerator or whatever the case may be from powerlifting. But that's not to say that because you're going to do powerlifting that you're going to look like that. If you include movements like, like chin-ups, like dips within your powerlifting program, then you can still look very aesthetic, very well sculpted, right? And even as someone who, if you're a street lifter or if you're doing street lifting style training, then you can also add those other movements in that training, right? You don't have to choose one or the other. Of course, you want to mix in all of them and to have kind of like a balanced training program, like how you might want to have a balanced diet. So how can you program these movements, right? How can you program weighted chin-ups? How can you program weighted dips? And how can you program squats, right? Whether they're weighted or just with body weight. So there are kind of three ways. So there's push-pull legs. Push-pull legs is a training split where one day you train pushing movements, another day you train pulling movements, and another day you train leg movements or lower body movements, right? And this can be repeated twice throughout the week with maybe like one rest day, or maybe just, once throughout the week in general. So pushing movements, of course, this would include the weighted dips, so you can center your pushing movements around weighted dips, which is how I had trained before. I would do weighted dips at the start, and then I would do movements that would work my shoulders, triceps, and other parts of my chest. And then on my pulling movements, my pull day, I would center the workout around weighted pull-ups or weighted chin-ups. And then I would follow that with stuff like rows, stuff that would work my biceps and the rest of my back. Then on leg movements, my legs, I would start off with squats. And then of course I would center the rest of my workout getting stuff like my hamstring. So I would include Romanian deadlifts, right? I still do deadlifts. I still do deadlifts, but I'd say squats are like what I rely on a lot more when it comes to building my leg musculature. And then another way of programming, you could do full body 3 times a week. So you could do these movements weighted 3 times a week with other exercises, probably have a rest day in between each day or however long it takes you to recover. Or if you want to do like a almost kind of like daily thing, I'd say do these movements just with only with your body weight. Just do weighted, no, not weighted, but just do body weight chin-ups, body weight dips, and body weight squats, maybe on the daily, but not going to failure. And then having like a rep range that you want to complete. Maybe you want to do 100 reps of squats, 50 reps of chin-ups, and 50 reps of dips daily or every other day. And then my last way of programming would be a simple upper lower split, right? Where you would be upper lower rest, upper lower rest. Or maybe you can even repeat upper lower 3 times throughout the week, depending on what you can recover from. And so of course your upper movements, your upper body day would include the chin-ups and the dips, and you would probably superset them. And of course you would want to have other pushing and pulling movements that get the rest of your upper body and superset those. And then you would have your lower body days be centered around squats, or maybe you might have an emphasis on deadlifts, who knows, depending. And then you kind of like get the rest of your, calves, abs, whatever the case may be, from after, those big movements. Don't just do 3 simple exercises. Of course, that does keep it simple. That is very simple. But you don't have to just do 3 exercises to train. You could do a myriad of exercises that you like and enjoy. And you don't have to do the exercises that I mentioned. You can do whatever you want, whatever helps you train, whatever helps you stay in the gym and be motivated, right? Whatever you think is more enjoyable for you. And that's how everybody should aspire to train, right? Do what you enjoy to do, not what others tell you to do or what you think you should be doing, right? Don't just follow what other people are saying all the time. Test things out yourself, see if it's gonna help, see if you just like those movements in general. If not, supplement it with something else or find other ways of training. But yeah, hope you guys enjoyed this video. Check out my other videos and peace out.